Welcome into this Thursday edition of Bengals Breakdown. I am your host, Stone Shields. Appreciate you guys tagging along, joining me for today's episode. Going to be spending some time talking about some Cincinnati Bengals trade rumors. Going to focus on the defense in particular. Obviously, that is the, place of need for Cincinnati right now where we stand in 2024. We're going to take a look at a few names, cornerback, pass rusher, and obviously, Duke Tobin and the Bengals don't typically do these kinds of trades at all in the middle of the season. But you guys really liked our last trade video, so we figured we would run it back and throw out some suggestions that the Bengals could potentially go after in terms of a trade. And also at the end of our show, going to list a couple of Bengals that they could send to another team as well. So that's all coming up here on Bengals Breakdown. But let us know, will the Bengals make a trade? Type Y for yes or N for no. Trying to get as many comments on this video as possible. Trying to go 150 plus. So help us out. Comment whatever you got to comment. Spam whatever you got to spam. But let us know here. Will the Bengals make a trade during the season? Sound off for us in the comment section of today's video. All right, first name here. I think every single NFL team, when they're talking about trade rumors, is throwing out this guy right here, Haason Reddick. Reddick, of course, hasn't played a snap with the New York Jets. Played with Philadelphia, of course, and boy, he is a really, really good edge rusher. I mean, he's a double-digit sack guy year in and year out. He really is an animal. But the Jets have not budged at all in terms of, giving him the contract that he is seeking. It's really a complete whiff, in my opinion, by Woody Johnson ownership with the Jets, as well as, GM Joe Douglas. Not exactly sure what's holding them back. Reddick could really be a big boost to their defense. And, I think he completely deserves the amount of money that he is seeking. So this is definitely a long shot. I mean, for the Bengals to bring in a guy like this, pay him a ton of money after he hasn't played throughout the year and doesn't really have any, connections with Cincinnati, probably not going to happen. But I think every single team in the NFL is kind of looking at the Jets right now like, what in the world are they doing? Just give this guy his money, because he really is an elite player. We've talked about the Bengals' defensive edge guys a lot, Hubbard and Hendrickson. Hopefully Hubbard, his performance against Baltimore is a sign of good things to come. And, he can really keep that momentum going here as the season progresses. But Bengals definitely could use somebody in this room. Reddick, of course, is kind of a long shot, as I mentioned, but certainly would be nice to see him in stripes. But again, don't get your hopes up. Would not expect Duke Tobin and the Cincinnati Brass making this kind of move. Leads us to the pinned comment of today's video. Do you want Haason Reddick on the Bengals? Do you think that would really help this Cincinnati Bengals defense and allow them to take the next step and really just give the offense a chance? That's what we're looking for from this Bengals defense. But it is the pinned comment of today's video, so if that ad comes here on YouTube, that's totally fine. Get down in the comment section, take advantage of it, and let us know what you think. We'll keep it at that edge spot now with Emmanuel Ogbah. I think this one is a little bit more realistic when you're talking about the Bengals potentially going out and trading for a guy like Ogbah. Ogbah spent a lot of time in Miami with the Dolphins. They actually brought him back in August to be a part of their defense. But when you're looking at the state of the Miami Dolphins right now, they're clearly in seller mode, all right? With Tua Tagovailoa, his health up in the air, I think, if anything's been clear, it's that, wow, they really need Tua to be a winning football team. And at this point, it seems like, with the uncertainty around their quarterback, they're definitely in a situation where they might want to be getting rid of guys. And the Dolphins could definitely get some compensation giving up a guy like Ogbah. He's a solid player. He can go out and get you a few sacks, which the Bengals certainly could use. Haven't really, had that a lot this year. Haven't really had guys taking down the opposing quarterback, and he could certainly help out with that. I think this one is a lot more realistic, and he's a veteran player, and I think that's what the Bengals are really lacking on Lou Anarumo's defense right now. Got a lot of youth, and a veteran like Ogbah, bringing him in could really be a boost for Cincinnati. This next guy, Tre'Davious White, a cornerback. I'm sure you have heard of him. Look, guys, I mean, he is just absolutely washed at this point. There really is no two ways around it. Tre'Davious White obviously spent a lot of time in Buffalo, and for a while he was regarded as one of the best cornerbacks in the National Football League, but he just hasn't been able to stay healthy over the past few seasons. Hasn't really played a ton of football. He has been banged up, and it got so bad last week with the Rams that he was benched, and I don't even believe he was active for that football game. So, if you're holding on to a little hope with a guy like Tre'Davious White, I don't blame you just because of how good he used to be, but he looks pretty washed. But I don't think the Bengals would have to give up much at all to get Tre'Davious White. And again, we've been emphasizing how much a veteran could really help this defense. White, of course, is a veteran. He's played in some really big games with the Buffalo Bills. The Bengals obviously are hoping to play in big games down the stretch. So that could, be a nice veteran presence in their locker room. But from a production standpoint, it just hasn't been there. So you really question on whether or not this guy is even capable of, getting significant snaps in the National Football League where he's at in his career. Another opportunity for you guys to get interactive with our show here at Bengals Breakdown. Name a player you want to trade for. Give us your thoughts in the comment section. I want to know what you think. Don't really have any offensive guys on my list, but if there's an offensive guy, actually we do have one coming up, but let us know in the comment section, offense or defense, who's a guy that you believe you want to trade for that could really help this Bengals football team in 2024. Talked about this guy right here a couple of days ago, and I tell you what, I really like Greg Newsome II, despite the fact he's a Cleveland Brown, which, of course, nobody likes Cleveland. They're the absolute worst, but Greg Newsome is a heck of a player out of Northwestern, former first-round pick. Cleveland did exercise his fifth-year option, of course, but he hasn't gotten that long-term deal just quite yet. And I don't believe the Browns would certainly trade within the division, especially to an in-state rival like the Cincinnati Bengals. But the Browns are cooked this year. There's no two ways about that. They are absolutely dead in 2024. And Newsome's a guy that, that they could get a lot for. I think Barry, their GM, is talking about how he really likes Newsome and he wants him to be a part of their future. But I think they really could benefit on dealing a guy like Newsome because a team could go out there and give a lot for a guy like Greg Newsome. And he's a veteran. He's been around. He's, played a lot of games in this league. But also he still has a ton left to give in terms of his career. Hasn't even got that second contract yet. So if the Bengals could land him, that would be absolutely awesome. But again, I don't really expect the Bengals to make kind of a big swing trying to get a guy like Greg Newsome. That would be completely out of character, but I certainly would welcome him in to Lou Anarumo's defense. Last potential trade target here on this list is offensive tackle Nicholas Petit-Frere, former Ohio State Buckeye. And look, he's been dreadful this year for Tennessee, but perhaps a change of scenery and, working with a much better offensive line could help him out. Again, like I said, played a lot of football in Ohio, playing at Ohio State, was a third-round pick a couple of years ago, and, switching it up, playing with a different team could potentially help him. And the Bengals could use a little bit of depth at that tackle position, obviously bringing in Andrew Stuber from the Falcons practice squad, signing him to their active roster. Amarius Mims is banged up. Trent Brown, of course, out for the season. Deontay Smith got hurt in the offseason in a joint practice. He's out for the year, so they could use a little bit of depth at that tackle position. Bringing in a guy that's played a lot of football in Ohio could potentially help them. And I don't think they would have to give up too much to get a guy like Nicholas Petit-Frere because he has really, really struggled this year for Tennessee. Next, we are going to get into some players that the Bengals could move. I think you guys understand which receiver that I'm going to throw up here because we always have to do this, but we'll dive into that in a moment. But first, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Game Time because today's show is presented by Game Time. Look, Game Time is a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time Picks is the easiest way to find and buy tickets to live events. You want to head on out to New York, you can still do that. See Sunday Night Football, Bengals, Giants, and you can get your tickets on Game Time. My two favorite features on Game Time are the views from your seat. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy with Game Time. Secondly, the all-in pricing. Toggling this feature on allows you to see your total up front so you don't get hit with any surprise fees at checkout like a bunch of those other ticketing companies can get you with. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS SPORTS, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. That link will be in the comments and the description of today's video. All right, first Bengal we're going to throw out there is Tanner Hudson. I think there's some upside. You could potentially get a little bit when you deal a guy like Tanner Hudson. And when you look at the tight end room for Cincinnati, that's really their biggest upside in terms of their depth, right? They have a ton of pieces in this room with what they've got right now. Obviously, the Bengals still have Eric All Jr. listed at that like tight end 4 in their depth chart, but that's clearly not the case at all. He's really the guy getting the most snaps. They feel good about Drew Sample and the blocking. Mike Gesicki as kind of a slot guy, pass catcher has really helped them as well. So Tanner Hudson's really their 4th tight end on this football team. And, of course, we haven't even talked about Tanner McLachlan, who the Bengals took in the 6th round of this year's draft and gave him a roster spot. Hasn't been active yet. Been a healthy scratch for all the games so far this season, but he's a guy that they view has more upside than Hudson. So I think Hudson's definitely a guy they can move. Again, they have a ton of depth at that position, and I think a team desperate for a tight end might be able to give up a draft pick in some sorts. What round, not exactly sure, but I think there's some value out there to move a guy like Tanner Hudson, and that's something I 100% would do if I'm Duke Tobin and the Bengals brass. I would move Tanner Hudson. And again, this isn't just because of what he did week 1, the fumble. It's not about that. It's just you have depth at that position, and, he's an older guy. You feel good about the youth at that spot. I would move a guy like Tanner Hudson, and he would really be the first name that comes to mind when I'm thinking about a Cincinnati Bengal on this roster that I would move. Another opportunity for you guys to get interactive here. Would you move off Tanner Hudson? Type M for move or K for keep. It's another opportunity for you guys to get involved with our show here at Bengals Breakdown. Really want to know what you guys think. This is totally an M for me, but let us know in the comments of today's video. All right, got to do it again. Tee Higgins, but I will say this. As the Bengals continue to progress through this year and they continue to lose, there is more reason to move off of Tee Higgins. Because, again, where I stand right now, I would be absolutely shocked if we saw him in stripes in 2025. And if the Bengals eliminate themselves from the playoffs, which, of course, is a long way from happening, then it becomes more realistic to move off a guy like Tee Higgins, because Tee Higgins really is a premier receiver in this league. Boy, did he look good against Baltimore. He looks like he's back, ready to go, and just the way he can spread the field out, him and Jamar out there is just absolutely awesome. Really going to miss him when he's not with the Cincinnati Bengals. Hopefully they can result in some wins for this football team, but it makes a lot of sense to move him if they eventually eliminate themselves from playoff contention, because if they don't, he's just going to leave next year, and the Bengals aren't going to get anything from it. So they're in a position where they could potentially trade him down the line. Again, this isn't something that I want to see happen until hopefully this never even happens. But if the Bengals were to get eliminated from playoff contention, then I'm totally here to talk about moving Tee Higgins. But for now, still 1-4, still have life, not even close to being eliminated yet. So I would totally pump the brakes on that. But I think it does become more realistic as time goes on, because nobody expected the Bengals to start out 1-4. That's why the Tee Higgins trade talk going into the season was so laughable in my opinion. But now, as the Bengals continue to lose, it starts to make a little bit more sense. But hopefully the team, of course, gets it turned around. I want to remind you guys to subscribe to our channel here at Bengals Breakdown if you have not done so already. youtube.com/BengalsTV. We will be live for Sunday Night Football on Sunday, probably around 7:30 for our Week 6 watch party. So don't miss out on that. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/BengalsTV.